everyone, and welcome to the Water Online Show, In the Flow. I'm your host, publisher here at Water Online, Travis Kennedy, joined as always by my partner in crime and co-host extraordinaire, Mr. Worldwide, Kevin Westerling. Kevin, we are back. It is season 2 of the Water Online Show, and we have a great show lined up for today, don't we?
Yes, we do. Excited to be here. Thanks, Travis.
Did you know, Kevin, that the planet Earth that we are on currently, right now, is 71% water? Did you know that? I mean, that's a kind of a weird number, but did you know it was 71 and not 70?
I'm going to say, yeah. I mean, I knew it was kind of around there. And like when we get into what is actually drinkable out of that, yeah, it's a tiny percent.
Well, we're going to get into that. I'm actually going to spill the beans a little bit on that. So Earth is in a shockingly short supply of drinking water sources, as you just alluded to a little bit. So freshwater comprises of only about 3% of all water. So look, I'm no mathematician. Certainly didn't win any Fields medals, but 3% is not a lot. 3% of all water is freshwater, which to me is kind of crazy. And less than half of that is accessible to humans. So I'm going to let that sink in for a minute.
Tough spot.
Right? Exactly. It's a tough place to be. It's a tight squeeze there. So, but new research that was published in the journal Science Advances reveals that this meager quantity has been rapidly dwindling over the past 20 years due to a combination of factors. So we could be talking about both climate and then direct human activity. So there's a lot of different things that we can sort of dive into as to the why. But using NASA gravity recovery and climate experiment GRACE satellite data, which we're going to get into, I'm not just going to drop the GRACE name and not come back to it, but that's primarily what we're going to be talking about. But that research shows that areas experiencing drying have been expanding at a dangerous rate for like 25 years. So all of those areas that are arid, don't have a lot of water sources, basically dry areas all over the country and the globe. And all those areas are actually expanding and depleting available drinking water for 75% of the world's population, is also contributing to rise of sea levels. So there's all kinds of these moving parts, Kev. And I honestly don't know where to start. But luckily,
with our guest,
as we usually do, right? We bring on somebody that is smarter than we are. Well, I'll speak for myself. Definitely smarter than me.
Oh, don't worry. Me too.
All right. So I'd like to bring on, using the Water Online hotline, I'd like to bring on our friend, Mr. Jay Famiglietti. He is a global futurist professor at the Arizona State University. Jay, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
So why don't we start off at the beginning? So I mentioned in the introduction there the term NASA's GRACE program, right? So please tell us about the history, what it is, and your involvement.
The NASA GRACE mission, it's actually half German, by the way, the German Space Agency, which goes by DLR.
Okay.
I can't pronounce what that is in German.
Well, I'd like you to try. That would make me feel better.
I'm not going to try.
All right.
But anyway, you mentioned it's based on gravity, and so it's unlike other missions, satellite missions. Often we think of satellites as being like a camera or a big telescope or a big thermometer. This was more like a scale, and it's weighing the gravity differences, which are primarily driven by the movement of water over the Earth. There's the static gravity field, which we learned about in elementary school, high school, college, which is controlled by where the mountains are, where the continents are, where the ocean basins are. But there's a time variable component of gravity as well, and that comes from mostly from the movement of water in the oceans, over land, in the atmosphere, in the ice sheets. And so this mission was conceived back in the early to mid 90s. To measure those changes, really with a focus on sea level and the ice sheets, and it launched in 2002, and that one ran for 15 years, and then the follow-on was launched in 2018.
And what about your involvement in it?
I like to say that I masterminded the whole thing, but that would be a complete lie.
That's what my notes say. So we want to go with that we can, or you can let us in on.
These are true rocket scientists. Actually, the real early work actually started a century ago. So there were like brilliant physicists who understood what I just explained, that there's a static part of the gravity field, and then there's this time variable part, and water movement should be detectable. And it took, 75 years to prove that. My involvement has been as a member of the science team almost right from the start. I started working on it before it was even launched. And then after it was launched, I became a member of the GRACE science team, and have been ever since.
Brilliant physicist from 100 years ago. I'm sure that what their dream was for Kevin and I to be discussing this and butchering.
And you know what? They probably weren't thinking about satellites back then either.
Probably not. I don't even know if I could explain what a satellite does or how it works if I went back 100 years.
So it's really interesting. I mean, us at Water Online, we're interested in water resources. When the program was first conceived and started, what was the impetus of it? Was it about climate change? You mentioned measuring glaciers, or was it about water supply? A little bit of both. And what were you hoping to gain by this analysis that you started and have been doing?
So it really wasn't about freshwater on land. That was an afterthought. It was really about the sea level rise, the mass component of sea level rise, and the melting of the ice sheet. So indirectly climate change. And the freshwater part was something that my colleagues speculated about. Now we're going back to like the mid 1990s when I was at University of Texas, which is really the birthplace of the GRACE mission. And I had very minimal expectations, and I got involved. I thought it was interesting. I thought there was a lot of potential there. And my colleagues were saying stuff that I thought was crazy. Like we're going to be able to monitor groundwater depletion from the world's big aquifers. And I thought, okay, that's a bunch of hooey. And these guys are my friends. So I should go and do some research on this. And I mean, it's worked out way better than any of us ever dreamed.
So over the years, the situation has obviously evolved. And I'm going to sort of put you on a seesaw here and just try to lean one way or the other. So has it evolved for the better or has it evolved more for the worse?
Okay. So this is like,
show your work.
Are you half empty or half full?
Right.
And I'm pretty much half empty on this one. There's really nothing that we're seeing that is for the better. It's all about, and we will get into a little bit more of the causes, but all about the ice sheets melting, the permafrost and the snow and the ice melting, the groundwater disappearing and winding up in the ocean. So that's been, it's been going on for a long time, but with the GRACE and GRACE follow-on missions, we've been able to track it. And then, through programs like this, share it widely. Right.
So if you don't mind, why don't you get into the factors so that maybe we can understand them and do better,
It's all climate change. So it's all direct human activity. So climate change is raising temperatures, driving that melting of the ice sheets, the thawing of the permafrost and the alpine glaciers. Climate change, human activity is increasing the variability, the increasing frequency and intensity of flooding and drought. In the paper, we really tracked the drying and the areas that are experiencing not only drying but extreme drying, and so that's climate change and human driven, and the third thing is the groundwater depletion, and that's climate change is obviously like a lifestyle. It's become like a lifestyle choice. We've made these choices to use fossil fuels and add CO2 to the atmosphere, but one that's a little bit less contentious is how much groundwater we use. It's not that difficult. I should take that back. I mean, politically very difficult, but conceptually not that difficult for, a state in the United States to say, hey, we have to dial back. We have to dial back because the groundwater is disappearing and we need it. And oh yeah, then there's the sea level thing too.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's all related, right? So I know that recently here at Water Online, we published a research paper that talked about how it sort of indicated some of the reasons why and where we go from here around how and why freshwater is disappearing at such an alarming rate. So could you talk about that paper at all? Sort of give us some insight, maybe Cliff Note version of the important aspects of it?
Yeah, so this is the paper that just came out at the end of July, right?
Yep, on wateronline.com. Yeah.
Okay.
Water Online reported on
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so Cliff Notes version. The continents are drying way faster than we thought they were, so at a faster rate. And then there's the expansion that's happening that we've mentioned already, about 2 times the size of California of the dry region per year of the dry regions on land.
Is that globally? So
That's
twice the
globally,
size of
yeah.
California.
It's across
That's
the,
how
yeah, it's across
that's how much it's expanding every year.
every year. Think about that. California's big.
Yeah, no doubt.
2 a
Yeah.
year for,
Right. Yeah, it's not going to take long
you
before
think on decadal time series. Sorry, if you think about decadal time scales.
I always think about those. Yeah, sometimes
yeah,
I'll think about
Yeah. Well, I do in my work,
Right.
and I try to get other people to do that as well. And that's part of the problem is, how much are we responsible for now, this generation, for next generation? So anyway, then the next big thing is that most of that water is ending up in the ocean, so contributing to sea level rise. And now the land is a bigger contributor to sea level rise, bigger than either the Greenland or the Antarctic ice sheet. And then on land, the drying parts are bigger, contributing more to sea level rise than the glaciers, which is new, than the glaciers on land. So we just don't think about the drying part and where that water goes, and we use groundwater where it goes. On Earth, it ends up in the ocean. The last big point, and again, I think you mentioned this in the intro, is that 75% of the country, the last big point is that 75% of the world's population lives in these 101 countries that have lost fresh water over the last 20 plus years. And I think very few countries are thinking about that.
So I'm afraid I know the answer to this next one, but maybe you have a solution that we can maybe abide by. But it's like, how do we reverse this trend? Because you say how it's getting worse. You say how like it should be logically simple to stop pulling as much water out. There's man-made climate change. We could change the way we do things that way too, but it doesn't seem like we're doing any of that. So by way of solutions, do you have any suggestions?
Again, we go to glass half empty, glass half full. I don't know. Maybe in this one, I'm half full, because anything that we could do to slow down climate change is going to slow the impacts on water, and the slow down the melting, slow down the need for more groundwater. Then on the water management side, the thinking about how we have to conserve this groundwater for future generations. Those are decisions that can be made now, and so. Maybe I'm naive, but I hope that if I spend enough time on shows like yours, that we'll sort of carpet bomb the whole world with this information and hope that there's a response.
Well, you had mentioned some of the facts and figures. 75% of the globe. And how the other 25% of the globe kind of impacts that, right? So let's try to take it and look at it a little more locally. So what are the implications, just say inside North America, where we are right now?
Yeah, again, not great.
Glass half empty again?
Yeah, there's nothing about this conversation that's great other than the fact that we all get to talk to each other.
We're talking about it. That's a good thing, right?
That's great. But
let's go back to the
not, I don't know what to say. I mean, they're super compelling. Okay, so I'll just sort of break it down regionally. In the paper, we talk about these mega drying regions, of which Canada. I lived in Canada for 5 years, and I watched this happen. It's melting away. So high latitude Canada, between the snow and the ice melt and the permafrost thawing, is melting away. It's obviously getting drier because those Canadian wildfires are just blazing away and blanketing Canada and even the United States with smoke. The Alaskan glaciers have been melting for decades. Let's drop down and think about the United States and Mexico. Western North America and down into Mexico is another one of these sort of mega drying regions. And it's problematic because we grow a lot of food in that region, especially the southwestern United States. We grow a lot of food. We've got some major cities like Mexico City and Phoenix and Los Angeles. And so there's a lot of human security that's at risk. There's a lot of food security that's at risk, and there's a lot of water security that's at risk. And then there's the whole, climate migration thing. Are people going to move from Mexico to here in hopes of finding more water? Little diversion. When I moved to Canada, I was living in California. Been there for 18 years. 2018, moved up to Canada, got a great job offer at the University of Saskatchewan to lead the Global Institute for Water Security. And part of our moving there was a little bit of a climate move, because we had been living in Pasadena and it was blazing hot, and we could sit on our front porch and see the fires in the San Gabriel Mountains. Mm-hmm. and smell the smoke. And we thought, okay, let's head up north. Okay, well, we did that, and guess what? Just as many fires and like 10 times more smoke. So anyway, just an aside, nowhere to go, nowhere to hide.
Yeah, no, that's right. Exactly. You can't escape it. Right.
Can't escape.
So we happen to represent in our audience a lot of municipal water operators and managers. I don't know if you've thought about it on that level, that locally, but do you have any suggestions for water managers locally and how they should respond and address this from a sustainability standpoint?
Sure, and I do. Certainly, when I was in California, I worked with the Orange County Water District quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
And here we interact with the Salt River Project and CAP and the Department of Water Resources, and also Department of Water Resources when we were in California. So we think a lot locally. I think locally the challenges are, so most water managers are quite concerned about this, but the things that we're talking about, so the long-term drying, the stresses on groundwater. But I'll tell you what, that is a thankless job, and their mandate is not necessarily to be thinking about these issues, like what is groundwater going to look like, 100 years from now, and how is climate change going to impact us. Their mandate is often, make sure you get water flowing to our customers. So I really sympathize with them, and we do work at a slightly higher level. So my experience has been that water districts are super concerned. I've spoken at many of them. They may or may not be empowered or have the manpower to address it, but they're well aware and they are super concerned. Sometimes I work at a little bit higher level, like with the Department of Water Resources, with the governor's offices in both California and in Arizona. And that is, there's a lot of awareness and a lot of interest in trying to bring this research to the level of accessibility that agencies can use it. So that's another positive. Of very few positives we'll talk about today. That's
hey,
guys, that fall.
We'll take it. We'll take what we can get when it comes to that. And speaking of positives, there's technologies that are coming out all the time to help solve the world's water problems, whether that's infiltration or disinfection or detection or things like that. And Water Online proudly brings you a lot of those innovations and announcements and how they can help solve the problems that we're faced with today. Because we are in various ways and various reasons in a water crisis, depending upon where you sit, right? Where you specialize in. I mean, the crises do exist. So the technologies that Water Online helps inform the market about are coming out all the time. So with this particular crisis, what technologies are out there that can actually help us?
Well, right off the top, we have to talk about the satellite technologies.
Let's do that.
Yeah. No, that's been great. And there's a lot more going on than just NASA. And there's a lot more than the Gray satellite within NASA. There's several other water-focused satellites, but there's the private sector companies that are doing the small satellite private sector companies, which are also small, that are quite nimble and having a big impact. So that's great. When we think, like in this case globally or over big regions, Sometimes it's instructive to break our problem down into municipal big cities. And so there, I think we're doing well. I think cities are quite sustainable in part because of sewage recycling and desalination. Its problems notwithstanding, those are important solutions. And of course, we need a portfolio as we look around the world. Agriculture is much more challenging because it uses like all the water. And so, there is so many things that we can do in agriculture to do things more efficiently, more efficient irrigation, deep drip irrigation, micro irrigation. Crop breeding is really, really important. Doesn't get the love that it should, but breeding more.
I agree.
Yeah, breeding more drought tolerant, saline water tolerant plants, I think is really important. We need to talk about crop choices. And then there's also, not technology, but innovations, financial innovations, policy innovations are all part of what's going on. So we got, a lot of work to do. One other thing I'll say is that, again, if we're going to focus on bright spots, small changes can get us a lot of water, especially small changes in agriculture. And so that can get us a lot of water and, maybe like another decade's worth of water. So that's a lot. Right. So we don't have to think about like doing everything at once.
Right.
Yeah. And I think you touched on some of it there as far as policy and some industrial innovation. But like you also mentioned how you think long term, decades, 100 years. Where do we need to get to? What needs to change from like a mindset or policy standpoint? Because we may not be there now with climate change and where things are looking, but can you look long term and think about how politically and socially and within the research community, within your community, what we need to focus on and where we need to focus to get this thing to where we can sustain water for a growing human population over the next 100 years, let's just say.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a great goal. I think we need to do exactly that. So one of the big things really is public awareness. People really care about water, and we know this, especially when it comes to polluted or contaminated water, right? People are justifiably incredibly upset about that and want to take action. And so I think that raising public awareness to that level to help them realize like this water is disappearing. And in the case of groundwater, like this is your child's inheritance. Like, what do you want your farm to look like in 60 years? And what do you want to leave your kids? So raising it to that level and also like sort of elevating it to the level of like, the discussions that we have about carbon dioxide. That's one of the things that I'm trying to do. So, that's one thing, the public awareness, but then on the policy side, making sure the different states, the different countries are thinking about their sustainability plans, their water sustainability plans, in particular, the groundwater sustainability plans. Most of the world, that is not the case, especially in the developing and the undeveloped world. Groundwater is like this, magical, mystical thing that's, underground. It's a challenge. I could go on, but I think policy innovations are important. I think the public awareness is important. I also think because agriculture is such a big part of this, that the financial incentives, at least in the United States anyway, the financial incentives for farmers to make changes are really, really important because it's their livelihoods and they have the rights to this water, whether those rights are, appropriate for what we understand about today's water supply and changing water cycle. They have the right to the water. And so how do we incentivize them to change? And so there's some financial innovations that need to happen there.
I think that's within our reach too, it seems.
It's totally within our reach. Yeah.
Yeah, this is doable.
I agree. Let's do it.
So, before we let you go, I do want to give you an opportunity to let our audience know where they can get more information, learn more about NASA's GRACE program and a lot of the advocacy that you are involved in. So where would you send them to learn more?
Call me. My cell number is not, no. Oh.
Yeah.
It's like,
He's going to drop his cell phone on the air.
Come to okay, so we have the Arizona Water Innovation Initiative website. We can give you the link. That's really important. I have a personal, me personally, I have a website, which is just my name. It's just jfamiglietti.com. That stretches over, the decades of the work that I've done, and there's a lot of media stuff, in there. And NASA Grace, just Google it. NASA Grace, I think the Jet Propulsion Laboratory has probably the best website. And one of my favorite websites, Earth Observatory,
Yeah.
Boston, RedSox.com.
Right. Go Sox.
No, one of my favorite science NASA websites.
Right.
It's called Earth Observatory. And I'm not sure if it's .org or .com, but we'll find it, send you the link. And I think it is one of my favorites. Lots of explainer pieces, beautiful graphics. You want to bring people in and get them like excited about the Earth and climate change. Earth Observatory is awesome.
Cool. I mean,
I own 50% of it. No, I don't. I've got a stake in Earth Observatory.
There's a couple others too. Obviously, the article we referenced earlier is published on wateronline.com. Also, but you had just mentioned earthobservatory.nasa.gov.
Thank you.
There's also azwaterinnovation.asu.edu. That's one. And then, of course, you're being humble, so I'll go ahead and I'm going to make you global here, Jay. jfamiglietti.com.
and we'll link that.
Yeah, we will link that. Right. We will go ahead and link that. But
excellent.
Yeah.
And the paper itself, by the way, is open access. So just Google the title, Unprecedented Continental Drying, and it'll pop right up.
There it is.
Sounds good.
Jay, I want to thank you for coming on board here, coming on air to speak to the Water Online audience, the Water Online universe, our listeners and viewers out there. I just want to take a moment and formally thank you for spending your time here with us. So we appreciate you coming on the air with us, Jay.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. We need to get the message out, and we need to save the planet. So let's do it.
You're here.
Agreed. Couldn't agree more. And for all of you out there, our listeners and our viewers, we want to thank you, of course, for spending your time here with us as well. We cannot wait to see you next time on the Water Online Show.